Hi, I'm John,
And I'm Paul.
and this is the Minute Podcast.
If you give a mouse a cookie, I'm pretty sure he'd write a book. But give us 60 seconds of footage and we'll tell you where to look. With a concept this simplistic, it's hard to say if it'll last. But give us just a minute and we'll give you a podcast. The Minute Podcast. Great. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Minute Podcast. As you may know by now, this is a weekly conversation between me and John where we review a listener-submitted minute of content from a movie or TV show or somewhere else on the internet, and we talk about it and try to orient ourselves and figure out what's going on. John, what are we looking at today?
So today we're looking at a clip from Troll 2, supplied by Robert. This is, kind of a spooky time of year, so I figured, some Halloween-themed minutes.
All right, yep, sounds good. And today's episode is brought to you by the Socratic Method. Do you want to have an old white man tell you about things? Then the Socratic Method may be for you. Visit the SocraticMethod.com for more information on lecture-based education today.
It's a lot of saying the Socratic over and over again without messing it up, Paul. I'm pretty impressed.
And when I practiced it, it didn't go well, so I'm happy with that.
Wow, we rolled the dice.
Yeah.
All right, so first we're going to talk about our level of familiarity with Troll 2. Me personally, I just, similar to Birdemic, Shock and Terror, I just know it's a bad movie. I kind of know that there's some sort of... I know that there are no trolls in Troll 2, I believe, and that it's something plant-based or something, like plants go crazy. I assume like Little Shop of Horrors or something like that. I don't know. Paul?
Well, I actually have seen this movie, so it's a bit of a diversion from the norm, but it was several years ago, and I don't remember it very well, and in fact, I don't remember this scene at all, so I think we might structure it a little differently the way we do it today. We might lean on you a little more heavily, John, for the hot takes, but I don't remember that much from the movie either, so we'll see how it goes.
All right.
Great. So a quick introduction to the scene here. It starts off with a family sitting down to dinner, and it appears that everyone is frozen in place except the boy, who then stands on a chair and does something. It seems that everyone then unfreezes, and he's carried upstairs by his dad to be punished while his mom and sister clean up.
Yes.
So
in this clip, I'm going to be playing the children, the sister and Joshua.
Yep.
Joshua is the only named... No, the dad has a name.
He gets a name as well, yeah.
He
and so I'll be...
He gets a name.
He's earned his name.
Yeah.
And I will be both the mother and the father, Michael.
Yes.
So,
all right.
Let us begin.
I must do it. I must do it. I must do it. No, Daddy, please.
Don't hit him, Michael. Please don't hit him.
Why not? It's what he deserves. A big spanking for a little shit.
Joshua is not a little shit. He's just sensitive.
This smells.
Do you see this writing? Do you know what it means? Hospitality. And you can't piss on hospitality. I won't allow it.
What are you gonna do to me, Daddy?
Tightening my belt by one loop.
And scene.
Excellent.
Okay,
I don't remember them being Southern in the clip, but somehow it happened.
They were definitely Americanish. And a specific variety, but not of any that exists in the real world. Yeah.
Right, John, well let's talk about what actually happens here.
Okay, so I believe that this scene begins with a theatrical device known as an aside, where the character is in fact talking, and nobody else in the room or in the scene is able to hear him. So he's talking to us, the audience, or to himself, or some other literary device or something.
So are you saying it's a figurative aside? So this is not like literally them being frozen in time, or
yes,
is it?
I think it's a figurative aside. I think that this is
I
Joshua coming to odds that he has to piss all over the food.
So we do think he pissed all over the food, then.
I am fairly certain because like you can't piss on hospitality feels like a very straightforward way of doing it. I thought, okay, so they talked a lot about shit in the beginning of it, which
I was
made
gonna
me,
say a big spanking for a little shit. So I'm like, did he also shit on the
yeah,
table?
I feel like they want us to question this. This is like, it's almost as though this scene was made for this type of analysis. Like, we're supposed to argue over whether or not he took a poo or if he peed all over their food. Like, one of those two things happened. To me, the wateriness of the food, implies pee. Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that you're right. But Johnny, you mentioned the food, and I think we should talk about that for just a minute.
Yes.
About what is on this table right now.
Well, okay.
I did a quick inventory.
Yes, I noticed this too. What are they eating?
It seems like they're eating two kinds of Kool-Aid, both red and green,
Yes.
are on the table.
Of course.
The dad prefers a nice green Kool-Aid, while the sister is a red lady all the way. They're also eating uncooked corn on the cob, I'm pretty sure.
It certainly looks uncooked. It looks pristine, as though it
really
was to
does.
dress a set.
There appears to be a quiche in the middle of the table, or something quiche-like.
Quiche? I don't remember a quiche. I do remember English muffins. Is that what they are?
Well, that was my other thing. I mean, in addition to a plate of apples, the only other thing on the table is these. You're right. They appear to be English muffins with green frosting on top.
Yeah. Okay.
Or maybe they're big biscuits. I'm not sure.
Now,
are they the dessert here, and the quiche is the main?
Now the
What's
thing
happening?
is the English muffins to me imply that it's butter spread on top, because like I could see somebody being an idiot and not like buttering the inside of an English muffin and just
But
like
with green
buttering
butter.
Well, okay, so I assume this is in like what, late 80s, early 90s, something like that, when
Sure.
Kraft was just trying to get kids to eat their fruits
butter.
and veggies and butter. So maybe this is like slime themed butter.
It's possible. My theory was that given how doughy they looked, they were some sort of dessert thing, but they look like overly raised, undercooked English muffins with green frosting on
They
top.
look like American English muffins, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's basically true.
I mean, we are from a region where Thomas's English Muffins manufactures their thing, so we might have more muffin awareness than most people do.
It's plausible.
Yeah, so like, we might have specific opinions, but this could be just some sort of weird, largely inflated 80s English muffin. One of the other things is everything seems to be smeared with this greenness. There's the green drink. Are there apples in the middle of the table? I think there's apples.
I think they were red apples, though.
Yeah, they are red apples.
May have been, yeah.
Then there's something sliced on one of these plates.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, they look like
cheeses,
almost like cheese on a cracker with a tomato slice.
Yeah, maybe the tomatoes are green. Green tomatoes are normal. Like that's a relatively normal thing
compared to the rest of this. Yeah. So do you think this was just a poorly set table, or they were somehow trying to make it more spooky?
I think the fact that the English muffins being the most weirdly green thing, although it does look like the corn on the cob has green on it, that the mom is about to dig into. What is this meal? Like, what is they have corn on the cob?
I think it's some sort of dinner.
Okay,
but in
dinner?
terms of what's the theme, I have no idea.
I mean, the theme is apparently whatever the hell we had in the kitchen at the time, because, like, does quiche and corn on the cob and English muffins go together in any way? Like, that feels like a lot of carbs for no reason.
My theory is that quiche and corn on the cob with whatever cracker things are going on there. Well, it almost seems like they were doing a 3-course thing, but put it all on the table at once. So you've got like your past cracker, you've got your corn on the cob and quiche, and then you have your dessert thing.
Or maybe they're one of those families where like nobody can decide on what they're gonna eat, so they just like everybody brings what they're gonna eat to the table, but like enough proportions for like 6 people.
Well, it could be, yeah. So, John, you mentioned something at the beginning that you thought it was a figurative aside. I think it might have been a literal aside.
Like they're frozen?
I think they were frozen perhaps by goblins or trolls. I don't remember which exactly happened in this movie. And then my theory is that he has to unfreeze them by peeing, so I think he's being blackmailed.
What? He has to unfreeze them by peeing? That is... I mean... I don't want to say it's impossible because I have no idea what this movie's about, but the idea that he has to pee on them to unfreeze them.
Well, I think he like has to get in trouble.
Oh, he has to get in trouble. So it's like
I don't know. I don't remember
metaphorical,
exactly.
like it's like breaking a spell.
I think so.
Like the chosen boy must fall for the family to thaw.
Yeah, I mean something like that. Which
This is a great
to me
rhyme.
to me raises the potential that maybe the kid is sitting down to dinner with his family, everybody's frozen, and then when they unfreeze, he's standing up and peeing, which you would think would be very jarring to the family, not only because they're watching one of the kids pee on the table, but because he's like transported magically between two positions instantly.
Yeah.
So maybe you're right and it's a figurative aside, but even then, does that mean he was sitting and then somehow still stood up while everyone was frozen figuratively? Like what what are the logistics here?
Who am I to question, traditional theater tropes? But I do think it is a little weird that this scene is simultaneously his transition into the room while also being like what I imagine has to be an aside, right? Like if they stay frozen, do you think the green stuff is freezing them? Is that why?
I don't think it's the green stuff. I think it's goblin magic.
So like David Bowie popped in here and like snapped his fingers and they're just frozen.
Yeah, he jiggled some balls and yeah.
Jiggled some balls, not a pleasant imagery there, Paul.
Well, it's not, but
I mean, then again, it's David Bowie. Never mind, I flipped on that. That's great.
Now it's okay.
Yeah, now it's okay.
So I have a bone to pick with this scene.
Okay,
but just the one, which is that it falls into the seem to be a trope of using "he's just sensitive" in movies to explain anything that a kid does wrong.
Yes.
Whereas like he's getting in fights. No, he's just sensitive. He stabbed my dog. No, he's just sensitive. Like, how is that an excuse for things? I feel like I've seen it in a lot of movies.
I don't know. I mean, like, I feel like it's poor writing, like more than anything, because like the idea that like he's just sensitive could explain away why he peed on the table. Like it'd be one thing. That would be like if he peed his pants because he's nervous about something. Like that would be like
sure. He's just sensitive.
He's literally sensitive, or like maybe overstimulated in some way. Like, but the idea that he like stands up on his chair and pees over the table is a completely different act. I feel like that's more of a cry for help, or just like a severe misunderstanding of the dinner table in general.
Wait, it actually, although maybe he saw those muffins and was like, I'm not going to eat that.
No.
I must do it.
Yeah.
I must do it. I must do it.
That's the other thing, is like the scene does start with an affirmation, like, I must do it. I must do it. I must do it. So like he woke up this morning, looked in the mirror and was like, I gotta do this. This is what I'm doing today.
Been saving it up.
Yep.
Which raises a question for me of, I don't know if on command I would be able to just stand up and pee on a table.
No.
No. It sounds like a high pressure situation.
I can barely pee in like a public restroom with another person in it, let alone like just like there's got to be a lot of liquids inside my body for that to be an option.
Maybe that's what it was. He's not being blackmailed. He had to do it because he was so well hydrated. He was like, I must do it.
I'm going to show them.
Sorry, I must do it.
Yeah. See, this is what proper hydration looks like, people, is what he's trying to do. He's trying to inform them.
It's educational.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We always kind of spin around onto the educational wing of things, don't we?
It does come up a fair amount. So another thing I noticed, John, is that the mother seems relatively concerned that Michael's going to hit what was his name? The son.
Yeah.
But not concerned enough to leave the sink area.
No.
Which for me, it seems like another thing you see in movies of someone yelling at the other parent to not hit the kid, but like not being invested enough to go make sure it doesn't happen.
Make sure. The other side of it is like the dad is so goobery, I can't even imagine it being like an option. Like the dad's response to like you see these words, you see these, you know what these mean. Hospitality is like not something that like a very hot-headed person. Yes.
Well, yeah, no, you're right. Especially not a hot-headed human. But let's talk about his hospitality for a second.
Yes.
Apparently, hospitality in his mind is allowing his young children to tape a single piece of 8x11 paper onto their doors and write their names on it in pencil.
Yep. And
Like
and
that-
in pencil, that is nearly invisible to the camera.
Yeah, I was gonna say you could read the first one. I think it said Holly, so maybe that's the daughter.
Yeah,
but the
Holly,
second one,
and then there's
you
two
can't read what's
others.
on it.
Yeah.
Like,
I assume it means like because you're not in like a glass cage that we keep you in, the idea that you have a bedroom that is
well, it
hospitality.
could be. Originally, what I thought he was getting at was maybe they were foster kids, and they were like, "Look, we're being nice to you." But then he calls him daddy, and the sister,
Yeah.
I think, says something familiar in there at some point. It's like, I think they're actually just a nuclear family.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're not allowed to, or that it's such a big deal to put a single piece of paper on the door is kind of weird.
Maybe his hospitality is him carrying him to bed.
That's what it is.
Like
Can you
it's,
see this delivery service?
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
stopping so you can conveniently read things.
Exactly.
Hospitality.
And so it's like opposite. Like you're met with the hostility of the kid peeing on the dinner table to with insane loving hospitality.
Maybe that's what it is.
And I
So,
say, yes,
we're clearly supposed to think he's going to belt the kid for a minute, right?
we are, because the mom says, "Don't beat him," and then
hit him, Michael, please.
yeah, and then he immediately goes for the belt after throwing Josh onto the bed. He immediately goes for his belt, but instead of taking it off, he just tightens it by one loop. And I cheated. I went 1 second beyond the actual.
I also did. I went like 2 seconds
Yeah,
too long.
it was hard to stop because it was in the middle of his statement. But like, I tightened my belt by one loop, so I don't feel hunger pains, and your mother and sister will have to do the same. So he's basically just guilting him into like yeah. So it's like exactly what any father ideally would do is basically like put him in his room, and then I guess like the take him bodily is not necessary considering Joshua seemed rather upset about the whole thing to begin with, so...
It's true. Well, what would you estimate the financial situation of this household to be?
I mean...
I'm getting to a point later, but to me, they have a pretty big house. Everybody has their own rooms. I mean, it's not the nicest house I've ever seen, but it looks pretty all right. What do you think? Are they doing all right?
I think they're doing pretty all right. I mean, the fact that they have multiple bedrooms for their kids seems like a go-to. Or multiple bedrooms, period, and that everyone isn't sleeping in, like, one big room.
Well, and there also seems to be another hallway on the second floor that we don't see, so they might even have a third floor going off that way. So the reason I'm asking that is he's making a big deal of them not being able to eat that day. They're like, oh, dinner's ruined, no food now.
Yeah.
Which, on the one hand, maybe he's just trying to guilt trip the son, but on the other hand, they're going to, like, make some peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, right? Like, it seems like they have the ability to get more food.
Absolutely.
And the kid even should be old enough to know, like, well, yeah, I'm sorry I ruined dinner, but there is more food downstairs.
Yeah. No,
even if it's just like peanut butter sandwiches.
It should be that there's more food in this house, especially since like English muffins don't come in like batches of 4. They come in like batches of 8. So
that's true.
There's at least another 4 English muffins in there somewhere.
And I assume they have more green butter.
Yeah, and Kool-Aid takes about 5 seconds to make like 2 gallons of it. So like
that's true. Well, okay, here's another thing. Are we saying he successfully peed on and in everything on that table?
Okay, so I have been wondering this because that would be kind of an achievement of control for such a young kid. I mean, like I'm imagining,
and also distance, because that's like a 6-foot long table to get to everything.
Well, you just sort of squeeze the hose a little bit, Paul. But the what I'm thinking is like, first off, that's a lot of pee. So like this kid had to have been well hydrated beforehand, which goes back to the health thing. And then the other thing is like, frankly, if I was sitting at this table, even if it didn't come anywhere near me, I'd be like, nope. Like this food is now unedible and inedible, and if that is a problem I have, then I admit to it. Like, well, if somebody was to pee on my table in general, I probably would not eat any of the food either.
On the one hand, I agree with you, and if anyone has peed anywhere near something I was considering eating, I would no longer eat it. But what I'm thinking is, there should have been a very limited window from when he could have started peeing to when someone should have stopped him from peeing on the table.
Yeah, but then you're like
So-
tackling a peeing child, which just
Hey,
to me
that's
feels...
parenthood. Isn't that just parenthood?
That's true, but it does feel like a slippery slope to just you being peed on, like or just
Well, no. What I'm imagining is he starts peeing, that unfreezes everybody, and then the dad sort of runs over, picks him up, and he's no longer peeing on the food. So to think that he could have gotten pee on very much of the table at all, I don't buy it.
It's so weird.
I'm just saying there should be about half of the table that was nowhere near the pee.
Yeah, I guess, but like the thing is that you'd still like every bite, every kernel of that uncooked corn on the cob, you would just be like, this is the one with the pea on it, isn't it? Like, this is the one where like the tiny little bit splashed up off the table onto this kernel, and that's what I'm putting in my mouth right now.
I mean, you're right, and since we didn't see the peeing, I can only guess.
Yeah,
but
I'm kind of glad
in
we
the
were
absence
spared the peeing.
Oh yeah, I didn't want to see the peeing.
Yeah,
although as soon as they cut away from him unzipping, they do have running water, and for a second, I think you're supposed to think, oh god, they're going to show this peeing child.
I did notice the running water thing. That's pretty funny.
Subtle clues.
Yeah, subtle clues.
All right, John. Well, a big question for me then is, how do you think we got here? Because I have a vague idea from memory, but I want to know what you think happened to get us to this point.
Okay, so let me think. I know that there's some sort of supernatural element in here. Maybe they are frozen. I'm kind of coming around on there being frozen, and then he has to pee on them in order to unfreeze them. Like, I kind of get that. It's like if you get stung by a jellyfish sort of scenario. So
similar.
So maybe, yeah, maybe his family is being harassed by magical, like a witch or witches or something, and he has to sort of prevent them from falling prey to their disgusting green butter, which sounds a lot worse than I anticipated.
The way you said that, I started thinking about bog butter.
Ooh,
maybe it's bog butter.
It's how we used to store things.
Yeah, in the old country.
Yeah, in bogs. Keeps them boggy.
Keeps them green.
Peaty fresh.
Yeah.
So, maybe that's it. Maybe, oh man, now I like where this is going. Maybe they found some bog butter, some ancient witchy bog butter, and they're like, this is prime stuff. This is like when you find like a can of like, I don't know, something fancy, caviar or something like that, and you don't know anything about caviar, so you're just like, well, we can't let this go to waste, you know, we're just gonna eat this caviar, but like...
And some English muffins.
But yeah, exactly. Smear it on some English muffins, some...
Right on the top.
Yeah, put it in some Kool-Aid, you know, right on the top. Yeah, they also just don't know how English muffins work. But yeah. So some sort of weird bog butter situation that then will turn them into what I imagine green people, because I can't imagine there's too much of a budget to this movie. So maybe just like they just turn into green versions of themselves, and then they're just meaner. But because the kid peed on the table, it prevented them from eating any more of it, and therefore also unfreezing them at the same time. So peeing actually turns out to be a very handy, like, multifaceted tool in this scenario.
Okay, well, John, before I tell you what I remember, then, can you give us a summary of what you think the movie is about, based on what you do know?
I think
and what you've seen here today?
I think it's about this kid who's, like 80s levels of, like, the kid knows what's actually going on here, and the adults are absolutely clueless. Like, that's what this movie is, like, overall. Is like, the kid knows something's going on, and sort of how to prevent it for some reason. I don't know, maybe he found an old book in German, and the old German guy helped him read. Now I'm just doing the Monster Squad story, but you know, something like that. Like, the kids know what's going on, the adults don't, and all of his actions are being interpreted as like a plea for help. And I think eventually, like, maybe his sister and her boyfriend and one of the bullies at school finally, like, understand what's going on and try and help him out after, I assume, somebody dies. And then they just all pee on all the food or something like that.
Yeah, based on what I remember, that's not entirely wrong. What I think this movie is about Joshua's interaction with a group of goblins, actually. I don't think there's any trolls in the movie. I think goblins are blackmailing him, trying to get him in trouble, but I don't remember why. So they freeze his family in order to make him pee on them. And then I think eventually his sister and maybe some other students do come around, and they have to basically take on this village of goblins.
Village of Goblins.
I'm pretty sure that's what the movie's about.
Okay. Is there...
Well,
so it's goblin magic?
I think it's goblin magic.
Goblin magic.
Pretty sure.
Yeah.
So, John, do you think based on what you know and what I've just said, we can recommend this movie?
I don't know. If there's more, like, horribly awkward scenes, like the is this kid really, like, am I really gonna watch this kid pee on these people? Like, if there's more scenes like that, then no. But if this is, like, the worst of it, then I'm intrigued. Like if I've just now seen the worst of the, is it possible that they're going to see, or that I have to watch some kid urinate on his family? Like, if that happens over and over again, I don't want to see it. But if it doesn't, and this is basically the worst of it, and this is, like, the one, like, peeing on the family gag, then yeah, I'd watch it. I just don't want any more of the really gross crud.
As far as I remember, this is the only scene where he does anything this kind of gross.
Okay.
But to tell you the truth, I don't remember it in that much detail. So I would recommend this movie. There are some other scenes. When I saw we had a submission from Troll 2 that I thought were definitely going to be it, which are pretty memorable. I recommend it. I mean, have a couple beers, sit down to Troll 2, and tweet
Troll
at
2.
us.
All right.
Yeah. You don't need to watch Troll 1, though. They have nothing to do with each other.
Oh, okay. I assumed, considering there doesn't seem to be trolls, because that's the one thing everybody always says, is like, first thing you need to know about Troll 2, there are no trolls in it. And so I'm like, well, you know, then where's the titular troll? Like, is this like a backdoor pilot to, like, some sort of trolliverse?
No, as I understand it, there was a Troll 1, and when they were getting ready to release this movie, they decided, the studio decided to market it as Troll 2 just to get more people to see it, even though it has nothing to do with the original.
Green Goblin butter didn't sell? Didn't pull well.
The Beast of Bog Butter did not.
Beast of Bog Butter. Ooh, that's a good one.
Didn't do it. Well, John, any other thoughts about this clip? I think we've delved into it pretty well, and there was a lot here.
I think we have. I think we've gotten through this clip at a good clip, and I think overall, like, I'm intrigued by this family, by the writing choices. The hospitality line is great, and you can't piss on hospitality. I want to try and use that somewhere in my life. I feel like I wouldn't be able to use it at work, but I mean, there'd be plenty of time and context for that sort of thing, but, like, I just feel like it's inappropriate language. But
a little bit, we'll see.
Maybe when I have my own kids someday.
Well, that reminds me. For a second, I thought he was just going to piss on the kid as his punishment.
That's absolutely what I thought too. There's a lot of, like,
and I'm like, oh no, little tit for tat.
There is a certain amount of, like, once you go for the zipper and it becomes like that's what you're doing. The moment you start having other characters in the scene or in a movie, like, just go for the zippers, you immediately, like, assume that they're just gonna whip it out and start peeing on things. Like, this whole movie is just now, like, zipper shy. Like, oh no, what they're doing? Like, I mean, I know that that's, like, one of the 3 things that can happen by going for the zipper. Like, other than maybe, like, I don't know, maybe there's something stashed down there, but like, why? Why would you? Why would anybody decide that that's a characterization element that somebody needs? So like,
I would not.
Yeah, the verbs that come from unzipping your zipper, not something that's comfortable on screen.
Well, it's true, and I'm glad that they did not go that route. Well, yeah, I guess a big thanks to Robert then for supplying this week's minute. You continue to understand the sort of thing that we're looking for, which
exactly
is great. If you, like Robert, want to support this podcast, you can review us on iTunes or wherever fine podcasts are downloaded. You can reach out to us at theminutepodcast@gmail.com, follow us on Twitter @minutepod, or find us on Facebook. As always, this episode was hosted by John Ward and Paul Reberg, with theme music by Paul Reberg and produced by John Ward. I got the order wrong, but we'll stick with it.
Whatever.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Holy crap, you made it to the end. We'll be back next week to do it all again. Until then, be well and be sure to take a minute. The Minute Podcast. 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 The Minute Podcast.